Of videos out there covering this, but I'm going to join in because there's just a little aspect of it that's not really being dialed into. TikTok ban upheld by Supreme Court. And in case you hadn't heard, Trump might delay this with an executive order anywhere from 60 to 90 days. That remains to be seen when he gets sworn in on Monday. But the ban has been upheld by the Supreme Court. I have not read the entire decision, but I'll talk about a few things here. It's based on national security concerns, and I say the act, an act of Congress that was passed in pretty much record time. They put the bill up early last year, March or so, and then it was signed into law by May. And part of that bill is supposedly going after the ownership of Chinese or foreign governments owning apps. So China is the chief concern here. National security concerns over China. They say that they're gathering up data. We can't let them do that. They're foreign owned. But the real reason of this ban, no one's talking about it, very few people. AIPAC influence. AIPAC is the American Israeli Political Affairs Committee. They donate much money to nearly every congressman out there. And if the congressman says something they don't like, they not only pull the donations, they go out and they fund their opponent. You can ask Congressman Massey. He's one of the only ones who's managed to survive their attacks, but that's a subject for another video. TikTok in the U.S. is, or maybe was, Singaporean controlled. The interview they had at the House interview, the interrogation, the grilling, where idiot senators were talking to the Asian representative, was a Singaporean citizen, wondering if he's going to become a Chinese citizen. It was borderline racist, very ignorant. The guy's Singaporean, they're not Chinese, but regardless, the end result is the Chinese parent company ByteDance was enough for this law to apply, and they've upheld it in the Supreme Court. So now everybody is jumping over to RedNote, and that's not the Chinese name for it, but that's what they're calling it in America. It's a Chinese-owned app. You're going directly to the source. So now instead of having this, at least nominally, not Chinese-owned app, now they're going right to the Chinese app, and that's still available in the Google Play and the Apple Store. We'll see if it stays there, but meanwhile, the data is still going to the Chinese. So anyway, you can read about the Supreme Court upholding the law to sell or ban. It talks about Trump and what he might do, but it upheld a lower court ruling that Congress did not violate the First Amendment when it passed the sell or ban law last year on national security grounds. TikTok argued otherwise before the justices last week. Now, they must have crafted that act very specifically, but I'll talk about right here. Washington, D.C., April 24th, Biden signed into law the 21st Century Peace Through Strength Act to provide military aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, and also enacted as Division H of that law is the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act. It's kind of funny how this worked its way into the same group of laws that provides aid to their vanity project over in Ukraine, their project over in Israel that's been ongoing now for a while, and their ambitions to start a war with China by doing something with Taiwan. But this is all together in the same law, passed, and this is what they based the decision off of. Nobody wants to talk about it in the decision itself. I haven't finished reading this yet, but the decision mentions China 22 times. It doesn't mention Israel even once. I went through the oral arguments, and the oral arguments also, they mention China 55 times. They don't mention Israel once. Interesting thing, though. If we go through this and we see, this is a part where Justice Kavanaugh said, what is the relevance of the history? Chief Judge Srinivasan, in his opinion in the D.C. Circuit, emphasized that there's a long tradition before the act then, a long tradition of preventing foreign ownership or control of media in the United States. Mr. Francisco, the lawyer for TikTok, sure. Justice Kavanaugh, going back, radio, television, right, and what have you. I think no matter what the level of scrutiny, that history has to be important. And I want to get your response to it. Now, the lawyer for TikTok didn't do it right away, but I would educate the Justice Kavanaugh on the history. Here's an example. Haim Saban, he's an Israeli-American media proprietor, investor, musical composer, producer of records, films. Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, he also had ownership of Fox. 1996, News Corp's Fox Children Network and Haim Saban's Saban Entertainment merged to form Fox Kids Worldwide. So here you have a dual citizen, Israeli and American, owning a media company. I mean, does this not come close to the tradition the history is talking about? Well, it must have been a kosher tradition because that doesn't apply. And if you think this is just being paranoia or conspiracy theory, that ADL, which works hand in glove with AIPAC, they're on record as talking about the TikTok problem. Listen up.
But I also want to point out that we have a major
Uh-huh.
And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem.
We really have a TikTok problem. You have the head of the ADL right there calling it out specifically. Okay, and this is March 9th, 2024. Okay, right around when that bill came out. This recording could have happened earlier, but I don't know how it got leaked. I'm glad it did. But there you have it, right there in black and white. That bill was crafted as a response to go after China. They must have written it in such a way. I did not read that bill, which became the act, but it just doesn't go out there and stop foreign ownership and control. It certainly doesn't stop control. Maybe it stops ownership, but they've really split hairs here. Anyway, they don't want you talking about this. They don't want you knowing about this. Doesn't matter what your opinion is. They just don't want you knowing this and many other subjects. So the response was, shut it down. And in the meantime, the data is still going to China. Okay, so the argument falls apart completely. Anyway, I just wanted to throw this out there. Thanks for watching.